Welcome to Rewiring Health, your hub for transformation and empowerment. I'm your host, Kelly Kessler, and I'm here to guide you in aligning with your true self. Discover the freedom and vibrancy within you as we release patterns of self-abandonment and transcend the health impacts of stress. Get ready to unlock your potential and embrace the freedom and vitality you've been seeking. Now let's dive in. When I go to someone's house or I come home, I take off my jacket, my shoes, and I leave them at the door. But what I didn't realize for much of my life was I was also leaving myself at the door. The essence of myself, the true nature of myself, was being suppressed and hidden, and I had no idea that I was even doing it. This unconscious self-abandonment manifested in so many ways in my life, and it held me hostage to my own beliefs. And in this episode, I want to share with you what self-abandonment is, how it might be showing up in your life, and what is it costing you that you may not even be aware of. Self-abandonment is when we suppress or hide our truth. It's our emotions, our desires, our dreams, our goals, our essence is all suppressed in the name of seeking out validation, seeking out approval, seeking out acceptance from others, and a sense of belonging outside ourselves. This can show up in so many ways in your life, but today I'm going to give you 8 ways that it may be showing up that you may not even be aware of at this moment. Number 1 is ignoring your personal needs. This may show up in family relationships, friend relationships, spousal relationships. But when you are self-abandoning, you are putting others' needs before your own. You may have needs and desires that you're aware of, or you may have needs and desires you're not aware of, but you always put others' needs over your own. You seek out what people need from you or what their desires are, and that becomes a priority. It can be something so simple as going to dinner. You always go to dinner where your spouse wants to go or your family wants to go. It can be that you want to spend Christmas home with your immediate family, but your parents want you to come over to their house. And so you do that every year. It can show up where you are wanting to live in a certain state, but everybody's wanting you to move to this other state. And so you end up moving to the other state. Whatever it is and the way it's showing up, there's this belief system behind it that others' needs and desires matter more than yours. Number 2 is suppressing emotions. This is one that can be really hard to become aware of because maybe you've been suppressing emotions for so long. I know for me, getting in touch with my emotions was something that I'm continually learning to do because I had suppressed emotions for so long that it was difficult for me to even be aware of what I'm feeling or how I'm feeling. And so this is something that we can gradually lose touch of as our own emotions. And this goes along with number 1, where we feel like others' needs and desires matter more than our own. It also goes along with others' emotions matter more than our own. So if we make a decision that somebody may be upset with, we immediately feel guilty for that. Or we don't make that decision that's in alignment with what we want because we're trying to avoid the discomfort of our emotions. We want to suppress those uncomfortable emotions and just keep the peace outside of ourselves. We ignore these feelings within us of wanting more or wanting to feel this joy and feeling like, well, these are all the roles I have to play. How could I possibly feel joy in this moment? Our emotions become very disconnected from ourselves and we push them down. We are running on so many fumes by the time we're taking care of everybody else's needs that we feel like we don't even have time to express or feel into our emotions. If we're sad, we need to just brush it off, move past it. If we're mad, we shouldn't be feeling mad in this moment. We need to just move past it because we still have to function and show up for everything and everyone. Number 3 is neglecting self-care. You may have a schedule that the minute you wake up in the morning to the minute you go to bed, you are full. You are taking care of the kids, you are working, you're going grocery shopping, taking care of the house, the bills, everything. It's all on your shoulders. And that self-care becomes a point of when I'm able to get to it, I'll do it. And maybe you plan it out and you have all this willpower behind it and trying to get it in, but yet something else comes in its place. Maybe you get that self-care in for a few days and then again it goes by the wayside. You fall back into the same patterns of being busy, feeling consumed by everything you need to do, feeling drained, exhausted, and maybe not even having enough energy at the end of the day to even do anything for yourself. Or maybe it's that sitting for 5 minutes and just being with yourself feels so uncomfortable in this moment because all you're doing is replaying everything that you should be doing or everything that you should be getting done and what you didn't cross off the list. That self-care goes by the wayside. Number 4 is dismissing your dreams. Maybe you've always dreamed of being an author and writing that book has always been something that you've wanted to do, but you're like, when things settle down, then I'll do it. And then you watch your 30s go by, it never happened. You watch your 40s go by, it didn't happen. Maybe you're in your 50s now and you're saying, I'll get to it when. There's always that when date. Because again, unconsciously or subconsciously, we always think that other things matter more than this. That those dreams will happen when everything is smooth and everything works out and when everybody stops needing so much of me, then I'll address those dreams. But we only inevitably guarantee that our life will continue to go by and our dreams will never manifest. And so that is a huge sign that we are abandoning ourselves if we're letting our dreams go. We're maybe downplaying them. It's not that big of a deal. It's something I wanted maybe 20 years ago. It's not that big of a deal anymore. Or it's okay if I don't do that. We can say this to ourselves. We can almost talk ourselves out of our dreams. Number 5, people pleasing. So this is when you don't speak up for yourself, or maybe you're always trying to be the kind, nice person, the one that everybody gets along with, because you're so easygoing and you just go with the flow and whatever the conversation is going, you'll go along with it. Because at the end of the day, you just want the approval of others. You want to feel like you belong and you don't want to ruffle any feathers because if the peace is kept outside yourself, then inevitably, right, the peace should be kept within yourself. Well, it never happens that way. We end up just sacrificing everything that's true within ourselves to just make other people comfortable. But yet, at the end of the day, you know that within yourself, you're feeling deeply uncomfortable because there's something that's telling you that this doesn't feel right. But yet, day in and day out, we continue to do the same things. We continue to be the nice person, the good person, the person that does everything for everybody else. And everybody loves to be around because look how much they do for me. Look what they say to me. Look how they make me feel. Everybody around you feels great because you're sacrificing your energy to give to others, yet you're leaving yourself empty. Number 6, overcommitting. This is a huge one where you are used to going. You are a high achieving person and you know that you're capable of holding down the fort and keeping everything going and putting on a smiley face through it all. And so when the opportunity comes to say yes or no, immediately becomes this yes that you automatically regret saying yes to. Yet there's a real resistance in you to say no to anybody because you don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to let anybody down. You feel like it's almost like your obligation to be that person, that go-to person that people have expected you to be. And so inevitably your schedule fills up, you overcommit, you put yourself through the ringer to be everything for everyone. You go above and beyond by making your kids have this wonderful life and enrolling them in all the activities and going to all the places on the weekend, but yet you're exhausted. You say yes to all the projects at work and say that you can handle it. And deep down, you're like, I'll figure out a way. But what is that actually costing you? And so when you look back, you're continually committing, overcommitting, and saying yes to so many things, but yet you're running on fumes. Number 7, you can feel this moral suppression. You may be put in a situation where something does not feel right morally. This is not how you would choose to live your life. But those voices of making everybody else feel comfortable and validating other people and trying to seek out that approval and the acceptance from others makes you deter from what might be morally right for you. So maybe it's that somebody is saying something about someone that you know, but instead of speaking up and advocating and going along with what morally feels right, you kind of go along with the flow. Maybe you just stay silent, say, I'm not going to get involved. And you don't actually ever speak up for what your needs and desires are, because again, you may think that the other person knows better than you do. Or you may question yourself, you may doubt yourself, and then rely on what the other person's opinions are and think that they're right. And so morally, we can start to get blurred lines of what's in alignment with what I feel is morally correct and what is it that other people think is morally correct. And when we're not loyal to ourselves and we abandon ourselves, may be more apt to go along with what other people desire of us than what feels right for us. And number 8 is over-analyzing and hypervigilance. So you have probably become very good at reading the room, knowing people's emotional states, knowing when there's a sense of tension in the room, and then trying to diffuse it. You take on the responsibility that other people's emotions are your responsibility, and that if you can be the one who fixes things, quote, fixes things, and keeps the peace, then you are doing your role. You're doing what you are meant to do. And you feel this pressure to make sure that you take care of everything and make everything feel smooth. So you're often very hyper vigilant. You're aware of conversations, people's facial expressions. You're aware of their emotions, especially with people that you're very close with. So if it's family, spouses, you are reading into so much of their little nuances and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what's going on emotionally? Where are they? Is everything okay? Did I do something? And so you become very, very hyper vigilant in these moments. And in that, you become more attuned to their experience than your own inner experience. And this is just another sign that we are abandoning ourselves. So again, those are just 8 signs that you may have experienced in your life that are signs of self-abandonment. This is how it starts to show up in our lives, where we think that others know better than us. We literally sacrifice our own needs, wants, desires, our truth, our speech, everything within us. We sacrifice that to keep the peace outside ourselves, to seek out that validation, to get that approval, to feel accepted by others. And yet we're leaving ourselves behind. And so these subtleties, these things that we can do, and maybe you resonate with one of them, or maybe you resonate with all 8 of them, and you see this in your life. These all become the patterning that we live in and day out. And this is what I lived with for so long. Had no idea. I thought I was just, quote, the good girl, the A student, the person who would get along with everybody. I was the nice girl and the helpful girl. And while those are all good qualities, I didn't realize the sacrifice I was making. At the end of the day, I was exhausted. I was losing myself in the process. I was staying silent in situations I should not have stayed silent in. And that all became so much more clear when I realized that this was all part of this self-abandonment. So why would we do that? Why is this something that comes so naturally to so many of us, becomes so unconscious to live like this? And where self-abandonment comes from is that we, at some point in our lives, felt a lack of safety within ourselves. So we sought it outside ourselves. And we sought it in situations where if our caregiver was happy, then we feel safe. We sought it in situations where if others were accepting of us, then we could feel safe within ourselves. And so that lack of safety within became this lifelong pursuit of seeking that safety outside ourselves. And this all comes from programming. Our subconscious minds are programmed from ages 0 to 8 primarily. That continues to go on throughout life, but that's the main part of our subconscious mind that's programmed. And so anything we experience in that time period can deeply impact how we live our lives, the lens in which we see ourselves and the world. And so it could be something so simple that may not have seemed like a big deal in hindsight. But as a child, if you had this experience where you felt an emotion and it was invalidated by a caregiver or suppressed by a caregiver or questioned by a caregiver or not acknowledged by a caregiver, you could internalize that yourself and say, I'm not safe to feel this. there's something wrong with me feeling this because no one else is validating this emotion. I must be wrong. So instead of me trusting how I feel, I'm going to look outside myself to see how I should feel because my own internal compass must be wrong because I don't think I was supposed to feel that emotion. And so something like that can happen in our early childhood where we have maybe emotionally immature caregivers or emotionally invalidating caregivers. And that's just one example. It can come from so many areas. It can come from a teacher or anybody that was of authority when you were a child and you learned from them. And as children, we don't go outward. We don't have the wherewithal to say, like, that's their stuff, that's not mine. What we do as children is that we experience the world and then we turn inward and we go within to realize that maybe there's something flawed with me. Maybe I need to change to fit the world. And that's a huge part of why we abandon ourselves, because this is what we do throughout our whole life. We change to try to fit what the world's expectations of us are, what our family's expectations of us are, what our friends' expectations, our boss's expectations. We're trying to fit what everybody wants of us rather than going in with and asking ourselves, what is it that I want? What are my needs? What are my desires? What are the emotions that I'm feeling? And how can I create that safety within myself? And so that is really that root cause of self-abandonment. But the big thing here is that it does not come without a cost. And the cost is huge. And maybe you're experiencing some of these in your life. The cost is anxiety. So when the hypervigilance, our mind is constantly going, we think we're not safe all the time. So we're trying to create scenarios where we're safe. We're overthinking, we're overanalyzing, we're ruminating, we're replaying scenarios. Should I have said something? Should I have done something differently? Is it me? Am I the problem? So we live in a more anxious mindset when we self-abandon. We self-sabotage. So our needs and desires become not as important. So maybe we get on this great path where we're on this great track of health and we're running, we're eating well, we're feeling better about ourselves. And then life happens. And instead of coming back to ourselves, we totally abandon ship and then go right back to our old patterns. We get sucked back into these patterns of my needs and desires don't nearly matter as much as everybody else's. We lose focus. We have a difficult time focusing. So the reason for this is that when we are hypervigilant, we tend to be more in the stress response. So that focus part of our brains, the ability to really allow us to have a focus point in our life, becomes clouded. We have a difficult time navigating life. We are more focused on other people's needs and we really just lose the focus from within. We can experience pain and tension within our bodies. This is something that I experienced personally, is that I experienced chronic back pain in my 20s from this, where I realized in hindsight that this hypervigilance, this self-abandonment, not taking care of myself, always feeling like I'm responsible for everybody, was playing a huge role in my emotions. And I lived most of my life out of guilt, feeling like I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I need to do more. And allowing that guilt to really run the show and everything, feeling that shame that like I'm not enough for what I need to be doing. I need to do more and more and more. And it was those emotions that drove everything. I was living out of fear rather than living out of love for myself. And that really came through my body. So if you're experiencing pain or tension, your body is speaking to you. It wants to be heard. And this is an opportunity to allow it to communicate, because our bodies truly are one of the biggest communicators for what's going on within our mind and our emotions. You may have self-resentment. So when you are constantly putting yourself last, you are exhausting yourself, you're overcommitting. At the end of the day, you may have a lot of resentment towards yourself. You may be just mad at yourself for not speaking up, for having that moment again where you stayed silent and let somebody else run the show. You may be mad that you watched 10 years of your life go by and you still haven't done anything that you wanted to do because you lived your life for everybody else. So there's a lot of self-resentment that can come with this. And then that just perpetuates the whole cycle as well. Chronic illness. So if you are often sick, experience frequent colds, you have a lot of illness, or maybe you have an autoimmune disorder, this is all information that your body is trying to express to you. So when you self-abandon, you're not even protecting yourself. You're self-sacrificing. And this is exactly Gabor Mate who talks about this with our immune systems. Our immune systems are supposed to protect ourselves. So when we're not doing that cognitively and behaviorally, our immune systems in our body very much mirror that. We start to come down on ourselves. We have these autoimmune conditions that then attack our body, or we don't protect ourselves from the external environment. That's why we get sick. So you may experience a lot of these chronic illnesses as well. And another way it costs us is that we have this lack of safety. We have this lack of validation for ourselves. And when we're living our lives not feeling like we're safe, to even be within our skin, to feel safe within our bodies and our minds and our emotions, we literally are living in survival mode. And so this is one of the biggest costs of self-abandonment, is that we're constantly seeking out safety. And we're not allowing ourselves to give ourselves this sense of safety from within. And so there are so many ways it costs us. And it may look different for each and every one of you. But one thing that is completely true with this is that if you are self-abandoning, it does not come without a cost. There's something that you're experiencing from this abandonment of yourself that is manifesting every single day. And that is why I wanted to record this episode, because for so long, I lived unaware of all these patterns within myself. I thought it was just who I was and how life was. But when I brought awareness to all the ways I was abandoning myself and realized that I have the ability and responsibility to change this in my life, that is when things started to change. So I hope for you that this episode brought some light to some of these patterns that you may have in your life, some of the ways you may have been abandoning yourself throughout the years. And I want to also share with you that this can change. If you notice any of these patterns, the first step is that awareness, because once you bring light to it, it can no longer grow. Things grow in the dark. When you're unaware of it and you're just doing the same patterns and focusing on the same things and moving through life with the same belief systems, that's when things grow. The minute you bring awareness to it, that's when things change. And so I hope for you that this episode plants that seed of awareness for you so that you can start to make some of those changes in your life and start to bring yourself into a place of self-loyalty. If any of this resonated with you, I want to invite you into my community, Infinite Self Circle, where you will learn how to move from self-abandonment to self-loyalty. And if you want more of a personalized screen and one-on-one care and how you can start to transform your life, I invite you to send me a message, and I do complimentary discovery calls where we can really dive into some of the things that you may be experiencing and how we can start to transform this together. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful that you are here. And if you found value in this, share this with someone who could also benefit from it. Thanks again.